Stephen A., was he the scapegoat of this Raiders' current mess?
Absolutely he was. He got screwed. He got screwed. And that's really the bottom line in all of this. And I'm disgusted because I'm going to tell you something right now. You know what? Let me take a step back.
Okay.
Jon Gruden worked here at ESPN for many years.
Yeah.
Phenomenal on Monday Night Football. Phenomenal colleague. Yeah. I'm very, very disappointed at the Jon Gruden that I've seen in Oakland. From the moment he arrived, he talked smack about players that Reggie McKenzie had drafted. Mm-hmm. He got rid of Khalil Mack. Yep. He got rid of Amari Cooper. A matter of fact, you have people out there joking that Jon Gruden should be Executive of the Year because he elevated Chicago and Dallas. Okay? I mean, he elevated two teams in the National Football League. Okay? I mean, that's what I'm saying.
But
because
that's
he elevated.
facts. Both those players were difference makers.
Both of those players are difference makers, okay? So not only do you do that, but in the same breath, you're talking about moving Derek Carr, who Reggie McKenzie also drafted. Also, you're looking at it from the standpoint that you don't want to spend money or what have you. You handicap this man. You're Mark Davis. You bring in Jon Gruden. You give him $100 million over 10 years with incentives, according to my sources, that buffers it up to 118 to 120 million if he meets certain goals or whatever the case may be. My point is that you ain't had a nice word to say about Reggie McKenzie since you arrived. You certainly haven't had a nice word to say about the job. Now, keep in mind, a couple of years ago, before Derek Carr goes down in the second to last game of the season, we were talking about the Oakland Raiders potentially going to the AFC Championship game. This is less than 2 years ago. We were talking about them potentially going to the AFC Championship game. But because Jon Gruden is there with his Mr. $100 million contract, which none of us would turn down, by the way, so I'm not faulting him for it.
I'll take it for sure.
I would take it. For him, for this man, Reggie McKenzie, to be moved out, there is no question that he is being scapegoated because they're clearly giving everybody the impression that he was a big problem.
He's not the scapegoat.
I think that's the way I'm taking from it.
I don't know about scapegoat, Ryan. I'll tell you what. It makes sense. That doesn't mean I think Jon Gruden is right, but it makes sense in everything that's going on in Oakland. The message that's being sent, loud and clear, is that Jon Gruden thinks the Raiders, the roster, and the entire organization was a dumpster fire. Every move he's made has said the seasons leading up to that 12-4 season you talked about, Stephen A., a couple 4-12s, a 3-13, a 7-9. That's who the Raiders are. Now, I'm not telling you that I think Jon Gruden is right, but I'm telling you, you can see what he thinks. There's a clear through line. Amari Cooper, he didn't think he was that great. Khalil Mack, not good enough for the money he's asking for. Reggie McKenzie hadn't done a good job. This place needs to be torn apart. Jon Gruden clearly thinks that thing has to be stripped down to the nuts and bolts. And I'll tell you who needs to be put on notice. You mentioned his name. But what's clear as day is if you're reading the lines here, is Derek Carr better be ready. Because if you think this thing is an absolute scrap heap, tear it down, well, that includes Derek Carr, does it not? Jon Gruden now has the chance, in fact, he has the obligation, to build this up from bottom up, from nothing up. He has the draft picks. He has nothing left.
And that's what I think he wanted.
Well, Molly, you know what now? He better produce because there are no excuses left.
So the reason I don't think that Reggie McKenzie is the scapegoat, because he was never going to be there. They're not selling this as we got rid of Reggie McKenzie because this team is underachieving. They're not selling this that we got rid of Reggie McKenzie because he dealt Khalil Mack, because he dealt Amari Cooper. They just let him go. Matter of fact, when they released a statement on it, they didn't even say they fired him. They said they released him of his general manager duties. Because Jon Gruden runs this team, and Will makes great points. Jon Gruden has a cachet. When you get $100 million, also when you get 10 years, you know you're going to be there. Jon Gruden thinks he has time or knows that he has time. Reggie McKenzie wouldn't have been there had this team won. Had this team been in the hunt to get in the playoffs, Reggie McKenzie was never part of the plan. This is going to be Jon Gruden's show and his show only.
Let me explain to y'all. I get your points. I totally understand where y'all coming from. I think y'all are missing my point. Timing is everything. If you walk in there and Reggie McKenzie is gone and this Jon Gruden era, there's no problem. If you wait until the end of this season and you say he's being relieved of his GM duties, there's no problem. But when you tell the world that we're stripping this man of his responsibilities as the general manager with 4 games to go in a season, you don't have to spell the word scapegoat for somebody to comprehend that. That's how this looks. And that's the problem with all of this. I'm saying to you that Reggie McKenzie has been the man at the helm since 2012. We know who he's drafted. We heard Jon Gruden walk in the door complaining about the pieces that they had. So, in other words, I'm also looking at it, I'll be honest with you, from the perspective of a black executive. Because, again, what other jobs are you going to get? And the reason why I pay attention to that, Ryan, is this. If I'm drafting guys and then you get rid of me in the middle of a season, that doesn't help my cachet. Now, if you walk in there because Mark Davis says, here's $100 million to this guy, and we're going to go in this direction, that's entirely different than you making a move in the middle of the season.
I think you've been a little sensitive in this respect.
I am.
I don't think people are going. Let's say that people think what you think.
I'm talking about the NFL culture.
Okay, you are suggesting that the NFL culture could internalize this as it's all Reggie McKenzie's fault because that's what you think the Raiders or Jon Gruden are trying to sell. They're trying to sell trading Khalil Mack, trading Amari Cooper. That's really on McKenzie. Now we're starting fresh. I'm telling you, I don't think they believes that. Nobody believes that.
I think he's been so vocal about everything he's felt. He's been so vocal in tearing this team down and tearing these players down that everybody knows it comes from him.
He was going to get a raw deal no matter what, even if they were successful.
Absolutely.
Everyone knows who's in charge.
Khalil Mack, that was a fantastic pick. And look how Amari Cooper's panned out. So it's not like these are bad picks we're talking about.
And again, Molly, I'm not even refuting that point. What I'm saying is that the rules are different for different people.
That's one of the
at the end of the day,
absolutely
even
true.
though y'all are correct in what you're saying, that doesn't mean that's how it's going to be perceived. That's all I'm saying.